Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Franchise Player. Today we're going to be doing some game hunting. We're actually hitting up Fire and Ice Games. They're doing a little game expo today. It's supposed to have like 30 something vendors, so it's probably going to be hella packed. Looking forward to it. But at the end of the video, I'll have pickups from other recent stuff I've bought from GameStop, online, that kind of thing. And I'll showcase any pickups that I buy. But yeah, I'm going to show you guys kind of what the store has to offer. It's a massive store. They have tons of games, cards, pretty much anything you want they have. And then I'll showcase what the vendors have. So yeah, stay tuned. This is gonna be a fun one. So there it is, Fire and Ice Games on the corner, and super packed out here, man. It started at 11, so I'm a couple hours late. But yeah, hoping a ton of good stuff is still in there. All right, so here is the entrance to Fire and Ice Games. Really nice corner location. And right as you walk in here, as you can see, this store is massive. Goes back super far. Off to the left, you kind of have more of their grails and, rare games, Super Nintendo, N64, PS1, all that. Behind the counter over here, you have some consoles. Off to the right there, you have Pokemon cards, graded cards. And then right at the front here is the first vendor. Cool little art exhibit, man. This Alakazam Game Boy was pretty sick. Same with the Bulbasaur one. Always cool to see different art that people make. So I showed up about 2 hours after this game swap started, and it was, still booming, still packed when I came in. Really good selection still. And right here, you had some GameCube games, NES. You had some Game Boy Advance games in here, some PSP titles, an SP, GBA Advance. Always nice to see a Vita and some Vita games out in the wild. I feel like Vita stuff is just getting, harder and harder to come by. So yeah, I feel bad for the Vita collectors, one, because it's hard to find, and two, because the games are crazy expensive. This next booth here actually had some pretty solid stuff too. Right here you had some GameCube titles, some Switch stuff, some Wii stuff. All the Wii stuff was pretty cheap. I feel like Wii stuff is still pretty low. Right here you had some nice CIB Game Boy games, and Sonic Advance, dude, super nostalgic. That was one of the first Game Boy Advance games I had that I remember playing a ton when I was a kid. It would be really cool to have that complete, but I don't know, man. Game Boy stuff, especially CIB, is crazy expensive, so it's tough to pull the trigger on that kind of stuff. But right here, some more Game Boy Advance, some DS and PSP titles off to the side. Not a big fan of picking up loose PSP games. It's just, it's like, I don't know, the UMDs scratch up really easily. I know you can kind of replace that outer shell that they sit in, but it's just kind of a pain. And, the PSP, I feel like, really struggles to read those discs if they're scratched up. As I was making my way through my first lap of checking out the vendors, I wanted to show you guys off to the left-hand side of the store here. So this is just the normal supply and inventory that the store has. So right here, you just have a ton of GameCube games, more of the uncommon stuff, or, kind of mid to higher dollar amount games. And I'm telling you, dude, if you come to this store, you'll be sidetracked for a very, very long time. Pretty much whatever you collect for, whether it's Genesis, PS5, Dreamcast, GBA, Saturn, PSP, I mean, you name it, you'll probably be able to find something here that catches your eye. And then right here was the PlayStation 3D TV, if anyone remembers these. I thought these were super cool back in the day and kind of uncommon. I don't really see them that often. This vendor was a really nice guy. He also had a pretty solid PSP selection here. Right here we had a Blitz Overtime. This game was super gruesome. Like, you could break ribs, legs, players were getting shot up with steroids. It was a super crazy game. All the vendors here were, really friendly, which was awesome. Super talkative, down to make deals, and this guy had a pretty good selection of Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. I had my eyes on one of these games, and I actually ended up picking it up. You'll see in the pickup part of the video towards the end, but definitely been on a kick of picking up Game Boy games. And this slim PS Vita right here, this aqua blue color, I think is easily one of the best looking PS Vitas. I know the slim version actually got some pretty nice colorways, and I think that's definitely one of the best. And continuing to make our way through the game swap here, and right here Kind of sad to see you have Resistance on Vita just sitting all by itself. You know, anytime I see a Vita game or just even a Vita system in general, really makes me think like, hey, if the Vita would have even got a fifth of the support, a tenth of the support that the Switch has gotten, like, you know, how different would things have turned out for the Vita? Because I mean, that was a system that, in my opinion, was really ahead of its time and built for success if it would have actually got the proper support that it deserved. And here's one thing I wanted to show off to the side, kind of towards the back of the store, is a bunch of Magic the Gathering cards. I'm not really a TCG guy. Don't get me wrong, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! In the past, Pokemon TCG here and there, but if you're a Magic fan, this place has tons of Magic cards, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, so even if you're not, you know, really into games, you can come here and grab some cards. DBZ, The Legacy of Goku. I remember my dad got this for me when I was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and always thought the cover art was awesome for it. Nice and holographic. Can't go wrong with the GBA Dragon Ball games. This vendor had some pretty good PS1 titles, and right here, The Legend of Dragoon. I did not have the full game of this when I was a kid, but I remember I think we had the demo of it on a jam pack and just played the hell out of it. So always kind of funny to see a game that you actually never had, but just played the demo constantly. So here's one of the glass cases that Fire and Ice Games has, and right here we're checking out the CIB N64 games, and the N64 cover arts were really cool. It's just a shame that a lot of the older games were in boxes, so they're super beat up, but if you're not a CIB guy, they have tons of loose carts, all pretty fairly priced. They had a ton of N64 stuff, Super Nintendo, some PS1 stuff in the glass case, and over here, Kirby's Dream Land 3, 800 bucks. Man, hard to believe some games cost that much. That's pretty wild. And right over here, they had some special edition Switch lights. They had the Sword and Shield one, and then the Diamond and Pearl Switch light. I think the Diamond and Pearl Switch light special edition is probably my favorite. I just think it's such a nice looking, sleek console. I know a lot of people are going to be getting the Zelda one that comes out soon, but for me, the one that takes the cake, still the Diamond and Pearl one. Overall, I had a great time at the Fire and Ice Games game swap that they did. Almost felt like a mini game expo. It was nice to link up with a couple friends, meet some vendors who are maybe from different parts of California, and just, you know, talk about games, chill out in a cool environment. It was super hot this day, but yeah, let's get right into the pickups. Got some pretty good stuff. So first up, I'll just show off the 4 for $10 deal that I got at GameStop. So first up in the bunch of the 4 for $10 is a game I've been wanting for a while. It's an Xbox One exclusive, and that is Quantum Break. So this game I think has, you know, fairly decent reviews. I've been wanting to play it for a while. It looks like a really cool Xbox One exclusive. Not a ton of Xbox One exclusives out there, man. So when I find one, I definitely try to pick it up. And I think it's cool how, you know, each system, you know, even if it was the GameCube back in the day, more modern stuff like the Xbox One, how they'd kind of mark that it was a console exclusive. I just think it's a nice touch. But yeah, this is a game I've been wanting to play for a while. It looks like there's a pretty cool ability slash like power you have in this game. But yeah, story-driven game, so I'm stoked to pop this in the Xbox and finally give it a shot. I've been wanting to play it for a while. Next up, this is a game that I think actually got like a ton of flack and kind of a ton of hate and like negative reviews when it came out. But that is Thief. This came out, if you don't remember, kind of at the tail end of the 360 and PS3 era and the beginning of the PS4 and Xbox One launch. So I don't think this is actually a launch title. I think it came out shortly after. But yeah, this got a ton of negative reviews, and I remember people hating on this game pretty hard when it came out. So when I saw it, I was like, you know what, man? It was $4.99, so it fit the criteria for the 4 for $10. I was like, I'll give it a shot. I watched some gameplay online, and it actually looks pretty fun, so I'm pretty stoked to try this one out too. One thing that's kind of tough about when GameStop does these 4 for $10 deals or 4 for $20, this one was in-store only, is that it's tough to find games in store that actually are in that $4.99 category that you'd even want to consider picking up. But I was like, you know what, man, $4.99 for this. It ends up coming out to like $2 and some change after the deal. I was like, I'm definitely willing to give this a shot. And yeah, it's something I've seen, you know, for years and was always kind of curious about, especially with the bad attention it got. So yeah, let me know if you've played this. I'm super curious. So next up is a game that I had to throw in the 4 for 10, and unfortunately it's not complete. We have the just classic loose GameStop case. Always hate these cases, but eventually I'll get it CIB. This game is, you know, super common. But yeah, Watch Dogs 2. This is a game that I've always kind of been curious about because Watch Dogs 2 takes place in San Francisco. So, you know, really dope location for a game to take place. You know, Driver San Francisco is another game that takes place in San Francisco, and that's pretty fun. So I was like, you know what, man, Watch Dogs 2, let's give it a shot. Disc was in decent shape. Luckily with Xbox One games, normally they're not super beat. Same with PS3 games. And yeah, man, this looks pretty fun. I played the first Watch Dogs back in the day on PS3. So I'm really curious to see how 2 is on the Xbox One. And once again, pretty much bought it because it was one of the only other decent looking games that I could fit in this 4 for 10 deal. The last game that I was able to get in this GameStop 4 for 10 deal was actually a pretty decent game. It's hard to believe how old this game is now, but that's gonna be Burnout Paradise for the PS3. So luckily this was $4.99. It fit in the deal. So I was like, you know what, man, I had Burnout Paradise back in the day on the 360 and loved it. The soundtrack was awesome. I've always been a big fan of Burnout games. Sank a ton of time into the Burnout series on PSP. It was so fun having that series on the go. But yeah, this was complete. Kind of strange that non-greatest hits case, but the disc is greatest hits. So I'm not going to trip over it that hard like some collectors might, where they're like, oh my God, I need the vanilla disc or, you know, the black label disc. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to playing some Burnout Paradise again. And I was like, you know what, dude, after the deal, this comes out to like $2 and some change. So definitely will be fun to revisit this because I haven't played Burnout Paradise in, no joke, probably like over 10 years back when I had it on 360. And I really don't know why they haven't brought another Burnout game back. I was talking to one of my buddies the other day when we were playing online, and he was like, dude, imagine how sick a Burnout game would be on these new gen systems, right? The PS5 and Series X, the physics, the graphics. EA, if you're listening, drop another Burnout, man. It would be super sick to see it on new gen consoles or, you know, on PC. I have 2 more GameStop pickups, and then I'll show what I actually got at the GameSwap / Mini Game Expo. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. So still sealed, haven't popped this open, picked this up at GameStop, and they had it on sale for 39 bucks, and I was like, man, that's still pretty pricey. So what I did, I had some points at GameStop. I had like $5 worth of points, and then I had my monthly $5 coupon. So I knocked this down to 29 bucks. 29 bucks for Donkey Kong, you know, Tropical Freeze. I think that's a pretty decent deal, about as good as I'll get it for a first party Nintendo game. And I know this originally came out on the Wii U, and this is only like a $10 game on the Wii U, but I don't have a Wii U. And during my month of Game Boy challenge, I'd actually beat Donkey Kong Country and had a really good time with it. It looks like this game has pretty positive reviews as well, so I'm pretty excited to jump into this. Because I've not played a modern Donkey Kong in a really long time. So this will be fun. Looking forward to checking this out. All right, so this is going to be my last GameStop pickup, and then I'll show the 2 pickups from the GameSwap. I technically have this digitally on, you know, PS5 / PS4, but that's going to be Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. So this is a title in the Resident Evil series that a lot of people credit with basically reviving Resident Evil and kind of bringing it back to life. And I played a bit of this on PS5 / PS4. When I got it for free digitally, and, you know, really enjoyed it, but wanted to pick this up on Xbox. It was like $12, 12 bucks for Resident Evil 7. Totally worth it, you know, be able to post up here in the office / game room and play this if, you know, the TV's occupied in the living room. Resident Evil is one of my favorite series of all time, and I know this game is supposed to be really, really, really good. And the fact it's in first person, I feel like is definitely going to make it, you know, way scarier. This might be something you want to throw, you know, the headset on, turn the lights off, and play late at night just to get the full, you know, survival horror experience. But yeah, I'm definitely hyped to try this out. All right, so now we have the 2 pickups that I got at the GameSwap. And the first one is actually a GBA game. During that month-long challenge I did of only playing a Game Boy, I had a ton of fun, and it made me really nostalgic for games that you could just pick up and play, not really have to think and sink a ton of time into. And I thought this would be the perfect addition to my Game Boy collection for something I could just pop in, chill out, and not really think. And that is the Pac-Man collection. So This actually has 4 different Pac-Man games on it. It has like the original Pac-Man. It also has a really fun, I actually played this yesterday, like right when I got home. It has a really fun, like almost Tetris style Pac-Man game that I thought was really cool. This was listed at $7. The vendor was cool with me just giving him $5 for it. And I was like, you know what, man, $5 for 4 Pac-Man games, something you can just pop into, you can't really go wrong. You know, I'm super nostalgic for Pac-Man. I remember my dad had one of these, I'll try to find a picture and put it on screen. I don't know if anybody else had one of these, but it was basically this like mini like joystick thing that you could plug into your TV, and it had like some arcade games on it, and Pac-Man was one of them. So the soundtrack and just the game in general is, you know, super nostalgic for me. $5, I thought that was a no-brainer to add to the collection. And the last one here is actually from a vendor. I think this is his name. He was super cool, super chill to work with, and had a pretty good selection of games too. His name is Jerks Mods, I believe, and that's his company. That's, you know, his game selling business. Really chill dude. And he had some really clean Game Boy games. And one of the games that I picked up from him was the original Kirby's Dream Land. And this thing is hella clean. Like, this copy was so clean and minty, I was like, man, this thing might be fake. But no, I looked at it, it's a real copy. Super clean, man. It's really rare to find, you know, Game Boy games like this, unless they're like the Japanese version, to be in this good a condition. No fading on the sticker, super clean copy. He had it listed at 25, and he was like, hey man, you know, I'll give it to you for 20. He was chill with me offering $20 for it. Kirby's probably my favorite Nintendo character of all time, and you know, to go back, have the first Kirby physical, I really enjoyed playing it on 3DS. I was like, you know what, man, this would be fun to throw in the Game Boy and play. Super simple Kirby, doesn't even have the ability to like steal abilities or powers from enemies, so it's super simple, but it's just, you know, great Kirby classic fun on the go. So yeah, I thought that was a good one to pick up for $20. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for today's video, guys. Pretty solid stack of games here, you know, tons of good titles. Let me know some games that maybe you've picked up recently, or games that you really like out of this bunch. I've had a good time going back to Game Boy recently, and it's been really fun collecting for Xbox One, because Xbox One games are dirt cheap, dude. Like Watch Dogs 2, mind you, it's a really common game. It's not rare or anything like that, but it's more expensive on PS4. Like a lot of these Xbox One games, especially if it was, you know, a multi-plat game, even the exclusives, are super cheap. Like most Xbox One games you can get for like $5 or $10. I think eventually, like down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if Xbox games actually got a little pricey, because they've been so like anti-physical for so long with Game Pass that, I don't know, that's just me, you know, kind of thinking. I think eventually Xbox One games might gain some value down the road, just because I feel like there's not as many physical copies out there because so many people are using Game Pass. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you thought the footage was cool at the game swap. And as usual, appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you soon with another video.